First is technical perfection. Story and emotion in your photography matters much more. Not all photos need to be the sharpest from corner to corner, exposed absolutely perfectly, and have the perfect choice of f-stops, or follow one of the composition rules. Slightly blurry or out of focus shots are totally fine in many cases. 20 years ago, the photos weren't as sharp as what we get from modern cameras today, but that was totally fine for those days, and many legends were introduced even way before that on old film cameras. Technical perfection as in just being sharp, always following the perfect composition rules and etc. are all fine and good. They are. But breaking those rules and missing focus, or your lens just not being sharp, is okay. Sometimes it looks better than technically good photos. Embrace imperfections. Breaking free of technical perfection can often end up in more creative shots. Next thing that you don't need is perfect inspiration. While moments of brilliant inspirations do happen, they are rare and often elusive. Relying solely on these moments can become a barrier to growth. In reality, consistent practice and actively seeking out new experiences often result in more substantial and sustainable creative breakthroughs. Like any skill, photography benefits greatly from regular practice, even if every session doesn't yield a masterpiece. Photographers don't need perfect inspiration because creativity can often emerge through action itself. Simply picking up the camera and engaging with the surroundings can lead to inspiration in unexpected ways. A photographer who shoots consistently, even without the perfect idea, is more likely to stumble upon good moments. Next one I think many is guilty of, including myself, is waiting for that perfect weather. Honestly, only cloudy days suck. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Sunny days, you get great contrast of light and shadow. Rainy days, you get moody atmosphere with reflective ground. And people holding umbrellas are very photogenic. Snowy days create mood as well, and snow being whites on the ground give you color contrast. And cloudy days, you would have to work the hardest. You might play with colors, patterns, framing, and etc. But at least you don't need to worry about exposure because light is even and you won't get blown out highlights. What I'm trying to say is that there is no single perfect weather. You can't always be hunting for sunny days or rainy days. You keep going out in all weather conditions and it will improve you and get you good photos. And some photos you can't get in other weather conditions. So go out in all weather conditions and enjoy your photo walks. The next thing that the photographers don't need is comparing. Photography, especially in the age of social media, often appears as competition. With platforms like Instagram constantly highlighting other photographers' work, it's easy to feel that everyone else is only producing stunning, flawless images. This can lead to a destructive cycle of comparison, where photographers measure their own work against others' carefully curated feeds and portfolios. You get to see only their best work and all of your good and bad work. But the reality of comparison is that it lowers self-confidence and creates unnecessary self-doubt. When a photographer is constantly comparing their work to others, they're more likely to make choices based on what they believe to be popular rather than what resonates with their own vision and interests. Every photographer has their own unique perspective, shaped by their background, interest, and experiences. So photographers should lean into their own creative journey, allowing their work to evolve naturally. So don't compare your creative journey to other people. Next thing that you don't need is specific lens for specific genre or type of photography. I know that you heard that the 85 is for portrait and wide-angle lens for landscape, and normal focal length for street photography. And I guess there is some truth to that. But it is more than fine to mix them up. Telephoto street photography and landscape photography works out fine, and wide-angle portrait photos are great too. Don't get too stuck on these photography rules and labels. They are there for a reason, but it should be easy to break them as well. For example, while wide-angle lenses are often seen as the go-to for landscapes, a photographer can use a telephoto lens to capture details and textures within a scene that would otherwise go unnoticed. Conversely, portrait lenses are traditionally 85 or longer, but wide-angle lenses can produce compelling portraits with a sense of place and environmental context. By stepping closer or farther away and changing angles and experimenting with focus, Photographers can create images that bring new perspectives to a genre and even develop a style that sets them apart. Now, next thing that the photographers don't need is following photography trends. Okay, I can't do this. Not here. Let's find a different place. Next is following photography trends. Now, I'm not really on Instagram like I was way back when, so I don't know the latest trends. But I think this is an important one, because just blindly following trends just because they're trends dilutes your creative voice. One example would be only shooting vertical or editing in a specific way that is copying majority of the photographers you see on IG. This makes you just another Instagram shooter, a worse version at that in fact. Sure, you can get inspired and learn a lot even from social media if you're looking at the right places, but just copying or following a style just because it is trending can come back to bite you. You might feel regret when you look back at your photos after time passes because you will realize that what you took was just for other people and their likes. There is this trend, or there was this trend in Korea. When you travel to European countries, you just stand perpendicular to your subject and shoot their backs, hanging out in famous parks. No action, no layers, no foreground, no nothing. Just two old people sitting pretty. And when I went to European countries, I did that too. But I quickly stopped and thought, what am I doing? This is not me. And I scrapped it. And I'm glad I did that. Anyways, now I look at my vertical photos way back when I was crazy about Instagram, and I'm a bit sad and feel regret about it. Because I like to edit and consume photos on my computer, which is in landscape orientation. So get inspired, but don't follow the crowd. Next is full frame sensors. Where's my Fuji gang? I think Fujifilm did a great job of making people not care too much about the sensor size or full frame sensors. Just like the fact that you don't need the latest and greatest gear, you don't need full frame cameras. You might want them and buy them, and that is fine. I have two, but it is not end all be all. Recently, I've been getting into vintage or older cameras, from CCD sensor to APS-C, and they're all great at what they do. Color, composition, and storytelling are all above sensor size. And except for a handful of cases, full-frame cameras are larger, so it is less portable. If you have a pocketable camera, it will probably have a smaller sensor. But in return, because it is so small, it can be your daily carry. You must have heard that the best camera is the one you have with you. What good is a full-frame camera if you don't have it with you? Now this one ties in really closely with the last one, which is latest and greatest gear. I have been collecting and using some older cameras recently. The only camera that I owned that I bought new was Ricoh GR3X, which was 2 years ago. The Sony a7R III, which I love, I bought used when it was 5 years old. And the Sony RX1 and Fuji X-Pro 2 are also 12 and 8-year-old used cameras that I acquired recently. And I plan to buy more used gear because they have some charm in their older lenses and sensor combination. Not only that, they're really enough for modern day shooting. Their quality is up to par. They might be missing some newest tech, but in terms of image quality, they are up there. And you get to save money initially. And the value doesn't depreciate as much when you want to sell it because they were already old when you first got it. Even a few CCD sensor Digicam is totally fine to use as your only camera if that Digicam was one of the best camera when it first came out. We are at a point where even 8-year-old cameras are up there in image quality and megapixels, and they can still compete with modern cameras. Of course, we might want the latest gear with the most megapixels and latest technology like AI autofocus, but we don't really need it. Instead, save up that money and use it for travel or multiple used gears. Now, the next thing that you don't need is approval. You're doing this for you, including me who needs an audience on YouTube to keep this journey going. This ties in closely with the point I made previously. You do not need approval or likes from other people, and those are not the exact measurements of how good or how bad you are as a photographer. So don't stress about it and keep doing you. I think this is important for content creators as well, myself included. I need to remind myself every so often to be true to myself. Sure, I will see what video does well and maybe keep doing those videos, but I need to do what I love to do as well. I watch other great creators and I look up to them, but I can't just copy and follow them. What works for them might not work for me and vice versa. So just keep doing you and don't let other outside voice change who you are as a person and as a photographer. Next is multiple lenses on an outing. Stick with just one lens and stop fussing and force yourself to be creative with a limited focal length that you have. It doesn't have to be a prime lens all the time. But it is just better to stick with one lens and commit to it instead of having multiple lenses on you, constantly changing lenses while missing lots of moments and breaking your rhythm. You will get another day to come out and shoot photos. So how about for today, you stick with one lens and stop being indecisive. If you love to fuss, then get a zoom lens. I love prime lenses because they're smaller, lighter, and forces you to be creative by limitation. I think shooting this way can improve your photography skills. So there you have it. These are the things that every creative person can live without. If you are new to the channel, I'm Alex. I post street photography related videos weekly. If you like this content, then please like and subscribe because it really helps out small channels like mine. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.